Hello everyone, and welcome to the next in our series of vlogs at Kimmel Bay Church. And today we're going to be looking at Acts chapter 9, focusing upon the life of a man called Ananias. And our theme for today is all about how brief encounters with others can have a big impact upon our lives and also on their lives, either for good or for bad. Now, people sometimes marry or change careers, all because of these brief encounters. And some say it's all by chance. But as a Christian, I don't believe that. I believe that God is in charge of our lives. And God has got a big plan for our futures. For example, I remember when I was 16, I was at Rill High School in the library there, wondering what to do next in my life. And I was looking through university prospectuses and didn't really know which course to take. But there was someone sitting next to me. Now, I have no idea who it was. I don't know anything about them at all. All I remember is they showed me a course at Sheffield University. Now, I looked at it, liked the look of it, applied for it, got a place, and off I went. And while I was there, I met Christians who took me to St Thomas's Church in Sheffield, where I became a Christian myself. And then the rest is history, literally. But the impact on my life was amazing, all because of that little brief encounter in the library at Rill High School all those years before. But yes, God did have his hand on that. I really believe that. So can we look now maybe at Acts 9 and think about Ananias? Now, we don't know much about him. All we know is that he played a huge part in the conversion of Saul, who of course eventually became Paul, who wrote much of the New Testament of the Bible. We know that he lived in Damascus in Straight Street, which is a Roman road. And in fact, even today, in the cellars of his old house, there's a church, the Church of Ananias, which people can still visit even now. We know that he was a devout Jew, but a Jew that became a Christian, a disciple of Jesus. But apart from Acts 9 and a little bit in Acts 22, he isn't mentioned anywhere else, but his role is absolutely crucial. Not directly, but indirectly through the life of Paul. Now, his first meeting with Saul or Paul was very challenging. Saul was a fierce enemy of the early Christians. He'd been involved in the stoning of Stephen, and he was heading to Damascus to arrest the Christians there. So Ananias must have been pretty worried to know that Saul was on his way, and many of the other Christians would have been in hiding. But God had plans for Saul and intercepted him on the way. In Acts 8 verse 4, Jesus said to Saul, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, who you're persecuting," he replied. "Now get up and go into the city, and there you will be told what you must do." Then from verse 10, we read Ananias' account of what happened next. "Ananias," the Lord said. "Yes, Lord." "Go to the house of Judas on Straight Street and ask for a man from Tarsus named Saul. In a vision, he has seen a man named Ananias come and place his hands on him to restore his sight." "But Lord," Ananias answered, "I've heard many reports about this man and all the harm that he has done to your holy people in Jerusalem. He has come here to arrest all who call on your name." But the Lord said to Ananias, "Go, this man is my chosen instrument to proclaim my name to the Gentiles and to their kings and to the people of Israel." So Ananias went to the house and placed his hands on Saul. "Brother Saul," he said, "Jesus has sent me so that you may see again and be filled with the Holy Spirit." Immediately Saul's sight was restored. He got up and was baptized. And then if we look at Acts 22 verse 14, Saul described what happened to him. And he said, "A man named Ananias came to see me. He stood beside me and said, 'Brother Saul, receive your sight.' And at that very moment, I was able to see him." So for Ananias, this conversation with God was a very momentous one in his life, and he didn't find it easy one little bit. And his reaction was a very human one, of fear and alarm. He knew that Saul was coming to arrest the Christians, and he was nervous. He didn't want to get arrested and killed himself. But he was obedient. And the results were, Saul was healed of his blindness, he was baptized as a believer, and was filled with the Holy Spirit. And then Ananias was able to give Saul this prophetic message that he'd be God's witnesses to the Gentiles. And of course, through Paul, as he became, millions of people were then led to Christ, and they're still being so today. I thought we'd finish by looking at two more indirect examples of the effect that Ananias had. The first one is about a girl called Lydia from Acts 16. And Paul described what happened. He said, "On the Sabbath, we went outside the city gate to the river, where we were expecting to find a place of prayer. We sat down and began to speak to the women who gathered there. One of those listening was a woman from the city of Thyatira named Lydia, a dealer in purple cloth. She was a worshipper of God. The Lord opened her heart and she believed. Then she and her household members were baptized." So Lydia was a worshipper of God, but was ignorant of Jesus. But along came Paul. Neither Paul nor Lydia had planned the encounter, but God made sure that it happened. And as a result, the church in Philippi was established. A second example is Acts 18. Paul travelled to Corinth, where he met a Jewish man called Aquila and his wife Priscilla. And they were tent makers. And it seems that Paul stayed with them and made tents. They became good friends. And they began to share with Paul the good news of Jesus. Eventually, the Corinthian church met in Aquila and Priscilla's home. And when Paul left Corinth, after a year and a half, he took Aquila and Priscilla with him to Ephesus, and they established a church there too. They'd had a chance meeting while they were there with an eloquent preacher called Apollos, who only knew about the baptism of John. But the couple explained all about Jesus' death and the resurrection. And Apollos, of course, believed. The consequence was that Apollos became leader of that early church in Ephesus and, of course, in Corinth too. So a whole sequence is there which led to that amazing event later on. Now, to finish, there's a very important verse in 1 Corinthians 3 we could end with. It says this: "The Lord has assigned to each his task. I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. The one who plants and the one who waters have one purpose. For we are co-workers in God's service. You are God's field. You are God's building." So to conclude, we dare not miss out on what God might be doing through our various encounters with people. Paul saw the immediate results with Lydia, Aquila and Priscilla, but we might not. We might never see the results. Yet we need to pray that whatever interactions we have with others, they'll be positive ones, and they'll all be part of God's great plan. So there we are. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great day. Bye for now.